Hello, Internet listeners.
It's Tana and Bill. Yay!
Yay! So we were just talking about the Zeitgeist movies. And I don't know, if you haven't seen them, go out and check them out. The first one is okay. It's just kind of it was a one-man stage show performance piece that he turned into a quasi-documentary.
Right.
But the Zeitgeist Addendum, and then we were talking about Zeitgeist Moving Forward just a few minutes ago, those are both really good documentaries, and I think everybody should see them just to get a different point of view, a different perspective on life.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen them all. I had my first exposure to the first film first, and then the other two after that. But that I was given a copy, and I think you were too, at one of the Occupy demonstrations.
Yes.
So that was been a period of time ago now.
Yeah, roughly 2 years.
Yeah, wow. So that was about 2 years ago that I had my first exposure to that. And what I thought was really interesting about that series versus other documentaries is that was the first one I had known of that actually offered some solutions. Like, these are issues we see, but this is what you could do about it.
Right.
And not just those lame, small solutions like, hey, just be more involved with your community.
Or as we say, stop being a dick.
Right.
Well, the group that you're talking about, like, at the end, or the second half of Zeitgeist Moving Forward, the third film, and I think they also touch on it they might have touched on it in all three, the Cities of the Future. Basically, it's a pet project of this guy named Jacques Fresca. It's called the Venus Project.
Okay.
And he is an industrial designer and just revolutionary type thinker, and has been all of his life. He's basically put together the way cities should be. Mm-hmm. To optimize, energy efficiency, waste management, food production, transportation, everything. And he does a very good job. He put a lot of thought into it. The only problem is they talk about using a cashless society, like what they refer to as a resource-based economy, but they give no options as to how to transition from where we are now to getting there.
Yeah, it's almost like you just suddenly have to decide one day, now we no longer operate with cash.
Right.
And it's not really feasible to just suddenly change. No one's going to jump for that. Hey, I have an idea, let's just not use money anymore and go to the store and take the shit you need. That sounds like robbery.
Yeah, it sounds like you might be on the adverse end of the Billy Club or a
Could you
taser.
imagine? Yeah, you just walk into a big box store and be like, I need this TV. I'm liberating it.
Jacques Fresca told me this is communal property and we're taking it all, bitches.
Yeah, but what was fascinating about that is that literally you would just go and take the items that you need when you need them.
Well, that is a great idea, though. I mean, really, think about how much garbage you have sitting around your house. Not necessarily garbage, but just devices, toys, cameras, whatever that you thought at some point, oh, I desperately need this, I'll use it all the time. And now it's been sitting in a closet for 6 months.
Like when I bought a Palm Pilot,
right,
like 6 years ago, and I used it for like a day and a half. Like, this has an amazing calendar function. So does a piece of paper.
But wouldn't it make more sense if there were just places in your community where you can go and say, well, today I need to use a camera.
Yeah.
So I go to the camera place, and they're going to give me a camera to use for as long as I need, but when I'm done, I have to bring it back.
Well,
that way someone else can use it.
Yeah, there's some big cities that do that with bicycles. That you can go and check out the bicycle from the local community center and ride it around for the day and then return it when you're finished.
I don't know the name of the company right offhand, but it's a car rental company, but they basically have the same thing. They just leave cars in different locations.
Yeah. And
if you need one, you call them up, you rent it, they tell you where the key is, or the code to get in, whatever it is. And
yeah.
There you go. You've got yourself a car for the day.
Well, it's kind of like those companies that have company cars, and then you just go register ahead of time that you're going to need it on Thursday at 2 o'clock, and then they make sure there's a car there for you.
Right.
I've never had a job like that myself.
No,
I've heard of them.
At all, no.
I've heard such a thing
exists. I've heard these jobs exist, and they're wonderful.
Right. But yeah, I've never had access to anything like that.
I don't have the skills to get one.
Mm-hmm. One day I may.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so basically if you needed foodstuffs, you would go to the food store and go and take the foodstuffs you needed. If you needed new bras, you go get to the bra store and get new bras.
In those cities that he built, the big round ones, basically all the food production other than proteins would come from aquaponics and hydroponics.
Yes.
What I am a huge proponent of and think everybody should do in their homes, using fish and aquaculture to grow fish in tanks and using their water. As you filter it, you pump it through a system where it grows plants, edible plants.
Right.
It's a great, efficient way to do it. It cuts down water usage for farming by like 2/3.
Isn't that amazing?
We kind of need water to be alive, and we're wasting a ton of it right now, so we should probably think about that.
Well, not only wasting it, but then ruining and polluting the remainder.
Exactly. I mean, I remember, like, my dad would tell me about, like, places he could go where he'd go camping and canoeing and stuff as a kid. And you'd literally be able to just dip your canteen in the river and take a drink. Can you imagine drinking out of any water supply anywhere in this country right now?
No, come on. Everybody goes to the beach and they put the things in their ears so they don't accidentally get water just in their ears. Come on, they get infections, swimmer's ear and shit.
You put on goggles even if you're only going waist deep because you just don't want that shit in your eye.
Well, yeah, when you see a needle float by, you know it's bad way. You're just in a bad way.
I always thought, if I was ever in a conversation with somebody who's like, oh, well, this place isn't polluted, you're full of shit, I'd just offer them a jug and be like, go on down to the river and drink your fill, buddy.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I tell you, but then, yeah, these are the same fish we're supposed to eat that come out of those water sources.
Yeah.
They have sores and owies.
Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of research out there, and people say that farm-raised fish are not as healthy for you to eat as wild fish, which I can completely understand. The wild ones have a more diverse diet that's more in line with what they're supposed to be eating. Their
bodies get to move of their own volition where they would like to go.
Exactly. But the way we've set up the world and the way we've kind of poisoned everything, we almost need farm-raised just to get something that's not going to kill you when you're eating it.
Yeah, but with the farm-raised salmon, don't they have to feed them special colored pellets so that their flesh will turn the color it's supposed to be in the wild?
Yes.
What's up with that?
I don't know. Why don't you just grow the things that they would normally eat in the wild and release them into the tanks?
Well, but it appears that being in captivity does just adversely affect animals. It's just like those whales from the Free Willy movies and how their dorsal fin lays down on its side because they can't stand up anymore because they don't have enough space to swim.
Well, any animal in captivity is going to do that. Just look at postal workers.
There you go.
Because that's really what a job is. That's us as animals being kept in captivity. We have no choice about it.
Oh, I tell you.
You're going to go to these jobs or you're going to live on the street. Those are your choices. Welcome to the world of freedom.
Right, and then people are like, well, just, suck it up and be a man and go to work. Well, don't you realize how ridiculous it is that you go to a job, they tell you exactly when to be there, you better not be even a minute late, and they don't even care that there was a school bus accident right in front of you and you had to stop and save the children. And I know that normally that wouldn't be why you're actually late, but just have a fucking sense of decency about yourself. My God, you cannot be a minute late or you'll get written up. And if you have so many write-ups in a certain period of time, then you'll lose your job. And so everyone walks around afraid, literally afraid of losing their shitty job. And they're like, this job doesn't even pay me enough to live, but I'm still afraid every day.
That's what really gets me. Like these companies like fast food and most restaurants are this way. They expect you to be loyal to your store and your company and, do everything in the best image of the company, but they don't even pay you a living wage.
No. Well, and then they will literally say things like, well, be grateful you have a job.
Yeah. Oh, you had $2 left over at the end of last month? Well, at least you had some money in your pocket.
Yeah, I've actually heard.
I heard that from a boss, and I thought, you are a piece of shit.
Isn't that crazy?
How could you say that about another human being? Oh.
Yeah, well, I tell you though, I worked at a bank once upon a time, and I worked there for over a year, probably almost 2 years in total. But I worked there, and then the time for your annual raise came up, and I got a dime raise, and I had never been so hurt in my whole life as when. You open your little envelope that says how much you're going to get for your raise. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? I work my ass off for you people. I guard your fucking money. I don't steal it. And then you're going to give me a dime raise?
I've gotten almost a 4-cent raise at one point. And honestly, it would be less insulting for you to just walk up and spit in my face and say you're a piece of shit, but you'll continue to work here.
Right, because you have no choice because you're lucky you have a job.
4 cents? What a fucking joke.
Yeah, I would be so livid. And not because... I would understand if the company said, listen, we really don't have it. Like, you are really a valuable employee, and we would love to give it to you, but if we give you a raise, we have to fire little Timmy. Well, then fuck right, don't give me a raise. But don't just insult me and spit on me by saying, well, you're decent enough, so here's something. Not even a whole nickel.
You seem to be better than everybody else, so here's a nickel, dickhead.
Not even a whole nickel, Jack. But yeah, and that's ridiculous, but then they don't care that it hurts morale. Because they know that people are desperate to have a job.
Well, and that's one of the problems. Over the course of the past, really since the Clinton administration, we've allowed more and more corporations to move manufacturing jobs and well-paying jobs out of country so that they can make more profit off slave labor. We've turned ourselves into a service-based economy.
Yes.
And that means basically all the jobs are selling shit to people, but the people selling the shit are not making enough money to go out and buy the same shit.
Right.
It's a bad cycle. We're falling apart, and it's our own damn fault for allowing it to happen.
Well, yeah, when you said during the Clinton era, I just had this wistful smile come over my face, and not that I even love the guy, right? But I'm like, Clinton, that was back when you could quit a job and walk down the road and find 10 more jobs.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you could take out $5 out of the ATM, buy yourself something to eat, a drink, and still have some change left over, Jack. And you can go to the movies for like $5.
We are not old enough to sound like our grandparents.
I know.
Look at the fucking inflation.
Okay, did you not see gas prices? Come the fuck on.
Oh my god. I was looking at the national average. It's like $4.19.
Yeah.
But here in Northwest Indiana, it was like $4.40.
Yeah.
And then we drove up north of Chicago for the weekend, and it was well over $4.50 a gallon.
Holy shit.
Why don't we just go to war with OPEC?
Well, and I don't know what the reason is for the gas going up this time, but it's been frivolous things like, well, there was a tiny wave happened somewhere in the world somewhere, so they had to raise up gas $2 a gallon. What? What are you talking about? So I'm sure this time they're going to blame it on the unrest in Turkey.
Yeah, the unrest in Turkey or the tornadoes that happened out west this past week, which, hey, if you live out there, I'm very sorry to hear it.
Yeah,
that's work out well for you. I know it's tough to move out of a region like that, but it happens. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing. I would hate to live in that community and have to be facing that right now.
I've only seen 2 tornadoes in my life, and man, they're fucking scary.
Yeah, I hope to never see one. I'm good on that. Yeah, I'm good on that. I don't even have anything else to say about that. I don't like that.
I've heard enough of that same interview of a fat woman in a trailer park saying, it sounded like a freight train.
Yeah, buddy. I wonder if other areas have the same national or disaster preparedness that we've had. Like, we don't get hurricane preparedness training because we don't live anywhere where we could possibly have a hurricane here. But does everyone get tornado preparedness?
That I don't know, and they could really spike up anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not something like a tsunami that can only occur in certain areas. So, like, an earthquake can happen anywhere. We've had them here. Nothing humongous where buildings fell down, but I've been jerked awake in the middle of the night once or twice.
Do you remember getting tornado training when you were a kid?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's some scary shit. But then again, you look at, like, the old movies from back when our parents were in school, like elementary school, and they're doing the duck and cover technique for nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my schools I went to actually had like a bomb shelter underneath it, and that's where we would have to go during tornado drills.
Really?
Yeah. So how sketchy of an area did we live in where they thought that was a big possibility, where the where the red team was going to come over and bomb the shit out of us? You know how it is.
You know, I got my school spirit. I'm all blue. We don't like the red team.
Exactly. What was it? Who were we fearing at the time? The Soviets?
Yeah.
We're always fearing those Soviets.
How we gotta fear him again, because Putin's getting divorced, and he might be mad about it.
Well, and so that whole thing, all those wars, I guess it wasn't, well, there was wars, yeah, but that whole unrest was because of communism, right? Because they didn't want people to share things with each other?
Right.
What the fuck is that?
Well,
no, I'm sorry, we don't want you to share your foodstuffs. So, well, it's kind of like when that store was having a sale on those gallons of milk in Texas, and then the government came in and said you can't have that cheap of a sale.
Whoa, I didn't hear about that.
That was a couple of weeks ago. There was this grocery store. I'm going to educate you. Off the top of my head, I don't know the grocery store, but there was a chain of grocery stores in Texas that had a sale on milk, just gallons of milk. And they were offering it for like $1.99 a gallon, like a really reasonable price nowadays.
Right.
And so everybody was flocking to go to the store, and the government came in and shut down the sale and said you can't sell it for so cheap because there's whatever regulations about how cheap a sale can be. And they're like, we're trying to help everybody out. We had a good profit this quarter, so we're trying to, share the profit with the town by selling milk for a reasonable price that people could afford.
Wow. And
yeah, the government said no. And it's, what the hell kind of world are we living in where they say you can't sell a product for so cheap?
Well, my niece had mentioned something about wanting to have a lemonade stand in their yard over the summer. And of course, as badly as I've been beaten with shitty media in the past 10 years, my first thought is a couple of years ago I'd seen this news article where a group of young kids got together and put together their own lemonade stand and got shut down by the town council for not having a business permit and not paying taxes on their lemonade stand at 5 cents a cup.
Wow. And I'm sure that those kids, and I'll bet you, and I don't know this, but I'll bet you those kids were probably doing a charity thing.
There's a good possibility.
Because that always seems to be the way it rolls. God help you try to help somebody out.
But I mean, how shitty is that to say, look, we can allow multi-billion-dollar corporations to move their shit outside of the country so they can make a product for 9 cents and sell it to you for $150.
Absolutely.
But you can't sell milk for cheap enough that people can afford it and still have money in the bank.
Right. Well, that goes against capitalism.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it really doesn't make sense. And it had something to do with monopolization, that if you sell milk that cheap this one time, it's going to ruin everybody else who's trying to sell milk.
No, it's not, because eventually they're going to run out of their product. And the prices are going to have to go back up.
Right,
People are going to have to go to the competition who still has product. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there used to be gas stations every once in a while that would just drop their prices drastically.
Yeah.
And I say drastically, even though gas was 92 cents a gallon, and the drastic would be somebody dropping it to 87 cents a gallon.
I don't know. One time there was a mistake in my neighborhood where the gas was selling for 33 cents a gallon, and my brother had discovered it, and then all of a sudden the gas station was swamped with people. All of his friends were coming up bringing their cars. They just had a constant line of cars in the house. And they fixed it really quickly within a couple of hours after they realized why they were so busy. That was the grandest day on earth.
You don't tell them why they're busy. You just keep
Exactly. That's what they were doing. There was just a constant line of people getting gas. It was hilarious.
Oh, I've done that before. Somebody puts up a mistake sign with a price that's like $10 cheaper than the product's supposed to be. I'm going to buy the product. And I've done that. I got a nice inflatable, like queen-size air mattress, self-inflating for $25.
What?
Because some dumbass put it in a Dick's Sporting Goods ad in the Sunday paper. I brought it in. They're like, no, we can't sell it for that price. I'm like, no. I'll sue you for false advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had
you said you have it. You better give it to me now.
Yeah, I had that with a sports drink one time, and it sounds like a small example, but it was like on sale for like 44 cents a bottle. But it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be like $1.44 for these big jugs. But I'm like, oh yeah, I want that for 44 cents, and I want 20 of them because I'm thirsty. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna take all of your stock.
Well, and then, but the reason why you jump on deals like that when they're inadvertent deals is because things are so rough financially that you have no choice.
Well, the thing is, especially when it comes to what you just said about the milk and, the government shutting them down because their prices were too low. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the basis of capitalism? That we're supposed to have competition through these things? And if somebody else can't drop their prices that low, then fuck them. They lose out on business. That's their fault.
Well, yeah, that's the premise that I've been taught to understand, yes. And, I was also taught that Jesus loves it, too, so,
Jesus loves capitalism.
Jesus loves capitalism, and he...
when he kicked those moneylenders out of the temple so he could set up his own banking institution.
Exactly.
New rates, Jesus style.
Exactly. How silly is that, though? But I've actually heard that argument that Jesus likes it that way.
Yeah, some people are fucking crazy and have never read that book.
I've got God on my side. Craziness. Because, and of course God would say, definitely we want to make sure you rip people off for as much money as possible. We want to make sure that you sell people faulty goods and services that they'll have to replace very shortly.
Yeah.
And we don't want anything to last, so we want to make sure to use up as many natural resources humanly possible, because it's only humans that could do this sort of damage.
Yeah, no kidding. It just doesn't make sense to me, the way we run this planet.
No.
We are kind of a bad joke, and that's the way I see it. It's really like, eventually I'm going to wake up from this dream, and I'm going to write an amazing comedy about it.
Yeah.
Because, if this were 50 years ago and if there was a movie you were watching about our reality based exactly the way it is, people would be like, that's a scary, fucked up, funny place.
Right.
And nobody's ever going to live there. That crap won't happen.
Yeah, no, they think it was some kind of artsy film.
Exactly.
Look at that artsy film. That's weird.
What? They're taking away their rights and shipping all the jobs away, but they still expect them to pay for things? No, that's stupid.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Who would even think that could possibly work?
Well, yeah, there's that.
Oh, we got new cookies in the office.
We do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, those are from the local cheap store. We like it that way. I think those were $1.99 for the whole tin of them.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. It had nothing to do with the subject, but hey, some cheap company sold us for a cheap price, and we didn't buy the expensive ones because of that, so fuck the expensive company.
Well, that's the thing, is that many times the cheaper version is the same quality, if not better, than the expensive one.
Yeah, you can match them up almost bit for bit on the ingredients. It's always the same exact stuff.
Yes.
You just bought into a name because you saw a commercial for it.
Yeah, well, and I've fallen victim to that myself, and there really is a rare occasion when the name brand of something is actually better quality.
Very rare.
Yeah.
I remember back in the 90s when people were all about wearing like IOU and Z Cavarici, which a lot of the young kids are going to be like, what the hell is that? It's basically the FUBU of your generation, but way back when we were kids.
It was like Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah, exactly. Then. But I remember I saved up money all through a summer working, and I went out and I bought that expensive crap because I wanted to be cool like everybody else. And it didn't take but a few months, and that shit was falling apart at the seams.
Yeah.
But the stuff about a Kmart still lasts more than a year.
Yeah, well, my little brother, when we were kids, he was going to die if he didn't get a pair of those pump-up tennis shoes for, like, playing sports.
Oh, with the Reebok pump?
Yeah.
I had some of those. They were crap.
They were, yeah. They popped. He popped one of his, like, the first day he got it. And that was something that he wanted so desperately. And so eventually it came to be that he got a pair after much saving and scrimping. And the damn things were, the one was broken that same day. The other one, I mean, he still wore them because he had no other shoes.
Because he spent over $100 right. on them, you have to.
Right, he had no choice. But yeah, they fell apart. And he was really upset about it. And that's the last time he ever bought that brand.
Yeah, I almost never buy Reebok or Nike or any of those brands. Any of the brands that I know were made in a sweatshop somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I will not spend money on that crap. If somebody buys it for me, I'll wear it, I guess. But only until it falls apart, and then I'm getting something else.
Well, yeah, and both of us buy a lot of our stuff at resale shops. So.
Yeah. I have no issue with that.
Not at all. Yeah, I enjoy when I put on an outfit and I realize, only my underclothes were bought for me. Everything else was somebody else's at one time. And I'm a little funny about buying used underwear, though.
No, I don't think I could do it.
I'm good on that.
I mean, girls... Well, I don't know. I don't think it's good either way around. Fuck it. There's no need to wear used underwear.
I'm not that bad.
I'd go without before.
I know. I'll go commando. Yeah, for real.
So, yeah, one of the things that got me thinking about these shitty companies is I heard a story about Apple this week, how they have most of their production taking place in China.
Yeah.
And they had a huge issue with women who were basically in indentured servitude there building all the Apple products, throwing themselves off the building on their lunch break.
Wow.
So Apple decided to take care of that problem by putting in a net.
So they're still free to jump off.
They're still free to jump off, but we're going to catch you and you're going to have to go back to work.
Wow. So
how shitty is that?
So their whole solution to this is it's okay to still kill yourself. We're just going to catch you before you actually
Don't do it
die.
here. You can kill yourself at home.
Wow. Well, what bad working conditions must someone be in to actively be suicidal like that?
I mean, well, what the fuck would make you think, all right, the net is the solution to this problem, rather than let's identify what about our company is making people want to kill themselves and stop that.
Well, I mean, truth be told, though, I can kind of understand how workers would be driven to that.
Yeah, there's lots of workers in this country that get driven to that, and supposedly we're all making a living wage.
Well, yeah, everybody I know is supposed to be making a living wage, and that's why so many people are living in apartments together.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 families are all making a living wage having to share one house.
Well, it cracks me up. I mean, 50, 60 years ago, you could literally have, the man of the house could be a cook in a restaurant, and the wife would not have to work. They would own a house. They would own 2 cars. They would have their own washer and dryer. All the necessities of life.
Right.
But we've inflated their currency so much. We've allowed, these banksters to just trade imaginary numbers back and forth with one another and ruin everything about the economy completely. To where you need to now have 2 people working in a home, and they have to be working multiple jobs just to survive.
It's uniquely American.
It's uniquely American.
But
and the only option that'll get you past that is if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or you work in the financial securities industry.
Well, yeah.
Fucking other people over.
Well, and that's the thing is that there's so many people that go to medical school and law school and go into terrible debt because those are the only jobs that you can make enough money to, just live, really. Yeah. And the doctors do make a shit ton of money. But they do have a lot of expenses they have to pay.
Well, you start off when you first go into your internships as a doctor, you've already got $100,000 worth of student loans.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Yeah.
So and no wonder doctors, I'm going to go in a little left on this, but no wonder, semi-sarcastically I mean this, but no wonder doctors rip Medicaid off all the time and overbill for things and order tests all the time because they need that money to pay back for fucking med school.
Yeah.
And it's not right that they do that, and it's criminal. And I've seen it time and time again where doctors admit a patient and then they just keep staying there. And then you suddenly realize they must have Medicare insurance because they pay for 14 days worth of treatment. Because the
government's going to keep paying for that, and I need someone to pay my bills.
Exactly. And it's somewhat facetious, but maybe that really is why, is because they have so much medical school bills.
That could be.
I don't know. I've never been a doctor, so I don't know what
I would
that
imagine
entails.
that probably has a lot to do with why they allow drug reps to come in and take them out for dinners and shit, and
yeah,
just use that small amount of bribery to get them to go out and sell you new pills.
Well, and with that, I went to the gynecologist last week, and I was talking to the doctor about birth control pills. And she said, well, what kind do you take? And I'm like, well, I take this kind, blah, 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 blah. And I said, but can you explain to me why every single time I go to a doctor, not this one because it's the first time I've seen her, but every time I go to a doctor, they switch my pills. And she said, well, yeah, it's based on what pharmaceutical representative came last.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, that's why you've taken this brand and this brand and this brand and this brand and these other 20 brands, because every time you go, it's been a different doctor that's come through. Or a different pharmaceutical rep that's come through to that doctor's office.
I just glanced around the office and I can see ink pens from fucking medical reps.
Yeah, there's notebooks too. There's Post-it notes that have the different medications and stuff on them.
I remember that a lot from when I was a kid. My mom worked for a doctor, and she would bring home all kinds of little trinkets because they're always trying to give you something just so you get that name stuck in your head.
Well, my last office, I had a really nice wall clock that was from it was a mental health medication. Now I can't remember what the medication was, but the clock was beautiful. And I sat there for like a week scraping the name off so that I could hang it up, and like that's why I don't remember what the company was, because I scratched the name off. But I'm like, this clock is gorgeous, and all the clients liked it. They would always compliment it. But it's like, why is this company spending so much money on this beautiful clock?
And not on testing and making sure their products are safe.
Right. Or like, I have an idea. Let's make this medication affordable. Mm-hmm. For the regular Joe. I would like to be able to have medicine when I need it.
I really think we need to overhaul everything about our system. I mean, we got to start with the mentality of it first. And we were talking about this earlier, how people keep making shitty decisions and then blaming the world around them for the result of the shitty decisions.
Right. Why is my life so fucked up and gone to shit over and over again? I'm in my 30s or 40s or 50s or 80s and it's still fucked up. Gee, why? I wonder.
Yeah, it has to be outside influence. Definitely not anything you're doing.
No, never. It can't have anything to do with the fact that you make the same shitty choices over and over and over again.
I always hear that from girls. So I mean, why are all guys the same? All guys are not the same.
Oh yeah, they blame the guys.
If you're picking the same kind of guy with the exact same traits, you're going to get the same result.
Yeah, exactly. Why are all guys mean? Why are all guys jerks? Why are all guys assholes? Why do all guys cheat? Well, why are you picking guys that act like that? And then when you realize they're like that, why the fuck are you hanging out?
Exactly.
Why are you still there?
One of the first steps you got to take on the road to any kind of mental or physical growth, becoming a better person, you've got to realize what your faults are and try to fix them.
I swear to God, if you're a chick out there listening to this, get thyself out there and read. Don't watch the movie. Actually, read the book. He's just not that into you. Because trust me, he's not. If he's treating you like shit, he doesn't like you. If he's embarrassed to be seen with you, he doesn't like you. If he only calls you to fuck, that's only the reason why he likes you is to fuck. So just really realize. Yeah, exactly. You're not the exception. You're the rule. You're like every other bitch out there. So just come to realize that, and if you do, you'll realize, wow, I can spot these guys a mile away. They really are pieces of shit that I keep picking up. And I talk about Augustine Burroughs all the time. He's my favorite. But he said, if you don't want a Pinto, why the fuck do you keep picking up Pintos? If you want a Lamborghini, get yourself a Lamborghini. Don't think a Pinto's going to change into one. It's not. Ever.
I did that, though. I mean, I kept getting into shitty relationships and thinking, what was wrong with me? But after the last one, I just I took a little hiatus from dating anyone. Decided who I wanted to be as a person, decided what I was willing to accept and what I was not willing to accept. And when I finally came to the end of that decision, I met my wife, and she was good with what I was. She was good with what she was. And
you came together and made a happy...
10 years now. Things are working well.
Right, yeah. You got together, and it worked out well because you both picked somebody that is already the way you want someone to be.
You can't change someone else. They're not going to become what you want them to be.
And if they do, run. Run like a motherfucker. Because that person is not their own person. And then they're going to be up your ass so bad that you're going to be like, I got to get away from this psycho.
I changed for you, and it made me lose all my friends, and now you're all I got. And if you leave, I'm killing myself.
Oh, God.
God. Here's some razor blades. Go away.
Exactly. But yeah, it should be part of like fundamental education about leaving people alone when they treat you like shit. If someone's done something to you that you feel is that bad, then get the fuck away from them.
Maybe that's where we should start. And instead of getting people to memorize little facts and figures about shit that are usually wrong in the first place with our histories and stuff, why don't we just teach people what to look out for in life, what kind of scams are available that are probably going to fuck you over, and how to avoid them.
Well, okay, yeah, and then we go and do this, and yet people still fall victim to like the Nigerian scam. And you're like, really?
That prince wrote me a letter.
And he said that he was going to come visit me if I sent him $20 billion. So I sent it, but I never got a check back for $60 million. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Have you ever read any of those letters?
I have. I see them on the news all the time, and I just laugh.
They crack me up. Well, I've gotten a few of those emails, like the ones that say I won some lottery in another country.
Oh, yeah. Those are
you got to pay the taxes on it. I'm like, that's great. Why don't you go ahead and take the taxes out of the winning and just send me the remainder?
Or you want a trip.
Oh, we can't do that.
Yeah, you want a trip or a car, but yeah, usually it's money.
Oh,
and and then if you've won money and they're asking you for money to send you the money you won, something's fucking wrong. And then they've got I just laugh because it's so silly. Then they've got the people calling these old grandmothers and grandfathers and pretending like it's their grandkid. And the people are so old and they can't hear that they think it really is their grandkid calling from some other foreign country that they've gotten to like Canada or something and need help. So the grandparents wire this money over and it's not their grandkid. Fucking hang up the phone and see if it's really your grandson.
Yeah,
what
check
the fuck
caller
is wrong
ID.
with you?
Every phone comes with it nowadays. But really, I mean, educate your family about it.
Yeah.
Talk to your grandparents. Let them know this shit's out there.
Well,
and when that Nigerian prince really needs the money, spend a few stamps, mail him a whole bunch of Monopoly money. Let him have it.
That would be awesome. But it's now in school, kids are taught about like stranger danger and good touch, bad touch, and bathing suit parts, and all these sort of programs the schools have because
bathing suit parts?
Yeah, you can't. People are not supposed to touch your body anywhere where your bathing suit covers.
Oh.
Yeah. See.
Well,
bathing suit parts.
What about boys who are taught to wear Speedos? That leaves a lot of touchable area.
Well, that's true. That's true.
We already know these sexy little boys are enticing priests on a regular basis. So.
Well, if they quit with their flirting eyes and their little batting of their eyelashes, that's the issue.
I'm sorry, I got that from a comedian, Dove Davidoff. He is fucking hilarious.
But
gotta do something about these sexy kids.
But that's how it is, though. People blame all these other circumstances. Like, it's not because I'm a pedophile that I have these problems. It's because those kids are looking at me like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, it's not that I make bad decisions spending money. It's that they don't give me enough. And if they wanted me to have enough money, then I'd have plenty to go and have my expensive hair treatments and all these different things done. Might get my nails done for expensive.
I've never thought about being a pedophile, but your 5-year-old keeps giving me the bedroom eyes.
Exactly. But that's super sick, but that's how a lot of people, people of that persuasion anyway, they'll blame the children when obviously a kid cannot flirt with you. A kid can't. It's fucked up. And, and that's just one example of people blaming the victim for what happened.
Yeah, that was one of the things I saw in that Zeitgeist moving forward. There was a scene where, and it was some like town hall type meeting between one of the higher up managers of an electric company and just the community in general. And this kid was talking about an older person in their neighborhood who died of exposure the previous winter because the electric company cut off his bill when he couldn't pay.
Yeah.
And the guy literally looks these people in the face, serious as shit, and says, well, that's not our fault. It's your fault and the community's fault and his family's fault for not paying it for him.
Right.
Like, really? You can't leave somebody alive, dickhead?
Well, locally, we for some reason live in an area that has a lot of prisons. We have a lot of correctional facilities, within driving distance. And it seems to be more, to me, it seems like more per capita than we would find necessary in a reasonably rural community. But anyway, I digress.
Well, you got to remember, we live near Gary, Indiana, and there's nothing Americans love more than locking up brown people.
That's true, though. That is true. Yeah. That it's an American pastime to lock up as many minorities as possible. Because we hate for anybody to be able to improve their circumstances.
I've seen the news. They're scary, and they're all out to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't take that seriously, anybody.
No, I mean, we're clearly joking.
Obviously.
Like, it's facetious. This whole conversation is facetious, really. But we have these prisons nearby, and the closest one to us, a few winters back, 2 inmates froze to death because other inmates had broken one of the windows, and they left it. The correctional facility decided that it was not financially feasible to replace the window because these other inmates had broken it, so they should have to learn their lesson. So these other guys that had nothing to do with the breaking of the window froze to death in their cells. And how fucking sick is that you live in? I mean, I don't live in a fifth world country where it's that bad.
Oh shit!
But they literally force these inmates to freeze up because they don't have the right to leave. Well, they don't even have the right to gather extra things to stay warm.
It's kind of like what I was saying with Apple, instead of putting up the net, find the source of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to do in our society, is stop locking people up and figure out, why do people keep breaking these laws?
Maybe because they don't have enough fucking money, so they have to go and create ways to earn income.
Almost every crime committed has something to do with finances.
Yeah.
It's either finances or a struggle for power because you're left feeling powerless all through your life in this society. We got to address that. We've got to fix it before things get any worse.
Right. Well, no joke. I had a friend of mine that lost his job, and he ended up killing himself because it took him over 2 years. He still hadn't found a job. So he killed himself. Literally, he died. He killed himself. So he died from lack of employment. And he tried like hell to find a job.
That's crazy. I would just walk to San Diego or somewhere, and I live outside in the warm climate.
I know, right? But that's the thing is that we could the choices are either work yourself to death, or you can't find a job until you need to kill yourself because you can't find any way to feed yourself even, or you have to go and become homeless somewhere. Those are your three choices.
Welcome to freedom.
Right, this sounds awesome. So 2 of the 3 involve death, and then the third one involves living marginalized in society, and really not even in society.
But you're still going to die after that one.
Yeah, you will. Well, and then you can't even eat the food out of the dumpsters because they put bleach on it.
That's right.
So what the fuck are you supposed to do?
Freedom's ruined it for all of us.
I mean, truly, what the fuck are people supposed to do?
We're hitting a tipping point. And I think that's why we've got a lot of these laws coming out, like the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, where you can just lock people up. And essentially where they're turning every American into a terrorist that needs to be investigated.
Or, God forbid, you use Verizon as your phone company, and now President Obama has authorized them to be taking all the phone records from April to July. Oh, I know, right?
They've always been able to do
I know this. I know
this. They always have. I mean, Project Echelon, which, hello conspiracy theories, but basically it's the series of satellites that has had the ability to take all the information out of all the emails and cell phones and wireless communication devices forever. And the way we got around that, since you weren't allowed to spy on American citizens if you were an American governmental agency, you let the British do it.
Right.
And we spied on the Canadians, and the Canadians spied on the British, and then we just traded information.
I see. I think I saw that movie.
Forever.
I think I saw that film. It was
might have
called
been a
Eagle
movie.
Eye.
Oh, yeah. I forgot all about that film.
See, wait till the computers try to kill us. Thanks, motherfuckers.
That's Skynet.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, so in Eagle Eye, what happened was that the society got so bad that the computer determined through its algorithms that we could not possibly survive based on our own behavior, so it started wiping people out because it was necessary for human survival.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to have to happen. We are fucked things up so bad that we're going to need an algorithm to pick who's got to go.
How fucked up would that be?
I don't know which side I hope to be on.
Yeah, I know. I just want to be on the side to watch this for a little while. See how it goes, if it's getting better. It's like that short story, The Lottery, that book. Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, that is. I don't know. We are a fucked up species.
But we
have potential to be a much better one.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is we absolutely have the potential, and now like through the Zeitgeist documentaries and ones like that, they're trying to offer up examples of things you can do to improve things. But are people ready to actually make a shift in what they need versus what they want, and what they are willing to do to ensure the survival of humankind?
I don't know. I mean, I think mentally most people have they're on the right track. They could do it without a problem. Unfortunately, I shouldn't have said most people. Some people. I think most people are going to need some massive issue, solar flare that knocks out all the power to half the planet, or super storms or super disease that's wiping out tons of people. That's probably what's going to be there to wake up most people. And without it, they'll just keep driving this bus right into the brick wall. They don't give a fuck.
Well, and how much more clear do you need things to be before you see it? My God. Like, we already discussed, the water's not fit to drink. You can't go up to a stream or go to a lake and drink the water. You'll die. You can't eat the fish that come out of it.
You look at, the people who are making the majority of the produce in this country have to wear hazmat suits.
Jack, that's true.
Yeah, and then we put it in our mouths. Well,
and would people be healthy if they only ate what was available locally? Like, why do we need to have bananas available in areas where bananas don't grow? There are other sources of potassium, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying bananas are bad or anything, but my God, the amount of petrol used to ship bananas all over the goddamn globe is ridiculous.
But if we went to a more aquaponic setup where you get like a 5-story building that's a block wide and it could feed 20,000 plus people, you could grow bananas in there.
Right.
And only have to ship them down the block.
And that's the difference, is if we actually set up a system where we can grow whatever would be necessary everywhere, then we wouldn't need to ship anything anywhere because it would be available everywhere.
Right, and when certain countries are hit with disease that's wiping out the banana trees in South America now,
right,
it wouldn't matter because let it wipe them all out, let the disease die off, we'll bring you more banana plants from up here later.
Right.
And then we can start nature all over again. But we just don't think about it.
Well, why are people... Well, I guess it's really a moot point, but why are people so afraid of change? Because people don't want things to change. But people don't like things the way they are, so they want things to change, but they're afraid of making change.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is, in order to look at yourself, and most people cannot look at themselves and think, I was on the wrong path. I thought the wrong things. I allowed myself to be guided by the wrong principles. Because then they say, well, I must have been a bad person. They can't gain any kind of personal growth out of it.
Right.
They just get down on themselves and then they want to be a dick to everybody else.
So why does my life suck so bad? Because I did these things, but I don't have to beat myself up and be a martyr.
Yeah, I don't have to blame myself. I can just blame everyone else and I'll be okay.
Well, and even with blaming yourself, and you don't even need to blame yourself, just take responsibility. Like, maybe I shouldn't have trusted so-and-so with my money.
Right.
And so since now I've learned that, I'm going to stay away from so-and-so.
Maybe when I realized that girl argued over everything, I should have just walked away instead of trying a 20-year relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have gotten married to that person thinking the wedding certificate was going to fix it.
Well, he'll stop beating me after the baby comes.
Yeah, exactly.
What the
He
fuck?
won't beat me when I'm pregnant, will he?
Yeah, he will. Well, he only cheated on me with my cousin once.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as long as it stayed in the family, so what's the problem? And it's like, not only is that guy an asshole, but what the fuck is wrong with your cousin?
What the fuck is wrong with you to think it's okay?
Right, that's what I'm saying. What's wrong with the whole mix of you? Well, and, you don't even need to hold a grudge or anything. Just get the fuck away from people.
Yeah.
And the red flags are so blaringly red, but everybody sees them and goes, well, it's not that bad.
I think people have had worse.
Right,
that
yeah.
doesn't mean yours has to suck, too.
Well, and that, like, especially with romantic relationships, yeah, other people have had it worse. Well, they're not beating me. Or they're not trying to kill me on a daily basis, so it's not that bad. Well, are you happy? Well, no. Well, then what the fuck?
Well, that's the thing. You should always be happy in a relationship. And not always. I mean, there's always going to be
24 hours a day, you're just going to be singing to the butterflies.
Yeah. That's a little Disney-esque. It's not going to happen. But, you shouldn't be miserable. If you're upset and miserable and have to yell at each other once a week, chances are that's a bad relationship.
Right.
It's toxic. You need to get the fuck out of there.
Right.
And if you have kids and you're in that relationship, you're ruining your kids.
Oh, God, yeah. And people don't think about that.
No.
But I watch the kids' faces when their parents start talking, and they do that hateful speaking that's not fighting in front of the kids, but it's fucking fighting.
Do you know what's going on right now? I just want to smack you and strangle you, and I'm going to fucking kill you.
Okay, I'll see you later, honey. Bye-bye.
The kids always have that look on
know.
their face like, oh my God, people know what's going on. It's not just a private home thing anymore. Now I've got to cover up their fucking shit.
Right.
Kids shouldn't be put in that position.
Never.
Be a grown-up. Get past your dumb bullshit.
Well, and, okay, so you've gotten some kids, and people will say, well, I need to stay together for the kids. Do you think that they really want to live in misery for the next 18 years? Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Or, we've made the situation where we've got these kids. Well, yeah, you did. That doesn't mean you need to stay together forever. You just don't. I had a friend whose parents were divorced, and when we were in high school, we would go, we'd stop by over at his house, and his dad would be there. It was his mom's house, but Dad would be there because Mom was at work, and so Dad would, and the kids, like, 2 of them were in college and 1 was in high school. They weren't small kids, but the father would be there cooking dinner and stuff and picking up the house a little bit, doing some dishes, and then when Mom got home from work, he'd go back to his house. And it was just because they were co-parents, by God, so they wanted to make sure where their kids were after school, what was going on, and they both of them had keys to each other's house. And sometimes the kids were at Mom's house, and sometimes the kids were at Dad's house. And it's just, they had an agreement that they were parents. They didn't have to be together and have sex with each other. They just had to be parents.
That's not a bad plan.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. I loved being over there, and it was just such a culture shock to me. I'm like, this can happen, this can exist in the world, where you have 2 adults that actually can get along because it's their job as parents.
It always astounds people, like whenever any of my nieces or nephews are having birthday parties, and my mom and dad show up, because they've been divorced for almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
But they can still tolerate one another.
Well, and that's the thing.
They get together for the kids.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I went to an uncle's funeral a few years back, and we were at my aunt's house. It was her brother, my uncle that died. And my parents are divorced, so both my parents were there, and one of my other aunts was there, and her ex-husband was there, and their kids were there, and so all these different exes were happening by. And one of my cousins looked over and said, "We're a strange little family, aren't we?" Because all these, people who are no longer married are there, but everybody knew my uncle. So why wouldn't everybody be there? It would be disrespectful not to be.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It does to me, too.
Once you can get past your stupid personal bullshit, you can put up with anybody for a short period of time. Right. A couple hours at a party or a family get-together, it's no big deal. Right.
But yeah, so maybe that's part of why people's lives are so shitty is because they go out of their way to be miserable and say, well, what can we keep fighting about even though we've been divorced for 20 fucking years?
Maybe that's what we should do for, all of world politics. The communist, that shit's all over now. Let's just come together and hang out once in a while.
Let's get pizza. We'll get occupied.
We'll go bowling. We'll get occupied.
Yeah, I want an apple occupied.
We'll go bowling. We'll hang out. We'll talk about not using your people as slaves for our personal goods anymore.
Well, and that's the thing is that everybody is still doing that crazy stuff and thinking that people don't notice. And the thing is, people notice, but they're not going to do anything. Everyone's just going to sit there and be afraid. Because if I make too much of a mess, then either the government's going to be watching me, conspiracy theorist people, and they're going to come and bust in my door, or I'm going to lose my job, or whatever, or I'm going to lose my shitty relationship that I don't want to be in anyway, or I'm going to end up having to move to a new neighborhood that even though I don't like my current neighborhood, I don't want to change. So people fight to stay miserable because they're that afraid of making a change.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, when it comes to, terrorism and these countries that just outright hate us because of shit we've done in the past.
Oh, I know, right?
If we had that kind of stupid drama in your personal life, you justify it in political life. Mm-hmm. We've got to get rid of it in the personal life so we can hold other motherfuckers accountable for doing that.
Right. Well, and at what point are we going to evolve as a species?
Yeah. How long do you really think this could happen? There's only one planet that's sustainable for us that we can get to right now. We're already on it. If we don't get our heads out of our asses and start taking care of one another, it's going away and it won't sustain our life anymore and we'll all be dead.
Well, but you know that the green lawns are more important, and you know that being able to pay $150 for a pair of pants is more important, that little tiny children's hands had to sew and they went blind from having to look into these little fucking needle holes. It's crazy. But instead of buying a pair of $20 pants at a resale shop, well, hell, if you're paying $20 at a resale shop, you're getting ripped the fuck off.
Yeah, okay. I buy $5 jeans at the resale shop.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then 50% off days is $250. But yeah, it's crazy. But people, for some reason, they love to have name brands of things, even though they don't care the cost. They don't care what it costs other people. Just like they want to have, but with the price of things, they want to make sure that their meat's cheaper, so they don't care that it's been injected with shit.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when it comes to products and stuff, when we look at, the big celebrity athletes, we call them heroes. The ones I would like to see as heroes are the ones who say, fuck you, Nike, fuck you, Reebok, you're not putting my name on some slave labor shit and then selling it to people who can't afford it at a price they can't afford.
Yeah, I just had a brain flash back in the late 90s. Yeah, it was awesome. And there was a basketball player back in the late 90s, and I can't think of off the top of my head who this was. So if anybody out there knows, please put it in the comment section. But he worked with one of the major shoe companies to make his own brand of basketball shoe. But he was selling it for $30 for a pair. And so it was really reasonably priced compared to Michael Jordan shoes that were $200. I have no idea who it was, but I don't know whatever happened to it. The whole plan was ready to go, and then all of a sudden you never heard about it again. Oh. But he wanted to make sure, and they were being produced and everything, so I don't know what the hell happened to these shoes, but he wanted to make sure that all the kids out there that needed good athletic shoes could get a good quality pair of athletic shoes for a reasonable price.
That would be a hero in my head.
Exactly, because he wanted to make sure that the kids got what they needed.
Somebody who's forcing these corporations to do something better for the people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, instead of here's a $50 T-shirt that cost us 3 cents to make because we use slaves, it's going to cost you $75 because it's got this logo on it that you want.
And how is it possible that it costs so much to buy something that they paid almost nothing to make? How is that possible? And then they take these little kids.
Advertising costs so much money.
Well, that's true. That's why I don't donate to the United Way. Exactly. Specifically, the United Way, I will never give them money. Because they spend an ass ton of money on advertisement, and I don't fucking like it.
Any charity
that you've heard of.
Any charity, if you've heard of them on TV, Don't give me money. They're spending it on advertising.
Oh, but the thing is that United Way has some fantastic programs. However, the amount of money that they actually utilize for their programs versus what they spend on bullshit is, you would puke if you saw the difference. Because I made them give me a pie chart one time to explain it, and I'm like staring at them while I'm looking at this pie chart. I'm like, are you seriously admitting to this? Are you admitting that only 20% of your revenue goes to help people? What the fuck are you doing?
Why did I give you anything, asshole?
Right, so yeah, and if it's as high as 20%, you're doing well.
That's
usually
terrible.
It's not that high.
It's like back in the day, all those... was it in Ethiopia where the food drives were being held? You know Suzanne Summers.
Oh, God, yeah. That's Suzanne Summers, yeah.
I almost said Suzanne Summers, but it's not her. What was the other woman's name?
She's blonde.
Sally Struthers.
Sally Struthers? Yeah,
she
blonde,
was
heavy
eating
set.
most of the food that was getting shipped over.
Well, South Park made jokes about that.
Oh, that's right.
Funny.
They called her one Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Good times.
Man, we live in a fantastic age where we have access to so much media that we can bring up random television appearances.
We could literally speak to each other in media cliches.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, something's running an installation on the computer.
Yeah, hey, speaking of installations, my antivirus software just popped up. Did you know there's free antivirus software out there? You don't have to pay for that shit.
Really?
Yeah, and that's what I use. Yeah, it's a free one. It was developed by hackers. I'm not going to tell you the brand because I don't want you to pick the one I picked just because I picked it.
Or to use it to hack into my system.
Exactly, right? But yeah, there's a few available that were designed by hackers that they themselves use. And when it says to update it, for God's sakes, fucking update that shit. If you don't update your virus software very often, then what happens is it doesn't have the newest changes to it to cover your ass for viruses. And you should run it every day, by the way. Did you know that? Probably not. Run that shit every day.
Yeah, I'm all about free software.
Oh, yeah. Love that shit.
I love Linux.
Mm-hmm.
Ubuntu is a great thing. All that shareware. Everything compatible with anything everybody else is paying for. Get it for free.
Yeah, what we're taping on right now, the software we're using to record this was free.
Yep. Audacity. Great company.
Absolutely. But yeah, the open source software is amazing, and there are so many examples of it that you can use for damn near everything you want to do. You don't have to go and buy these ridiculous products.
But you know what's really weird? They're giving this stuff away for free, but they're not making it in sweatshops.
Well, and how is it these people are able to survive while giving away free shit? It sounds like that guy that made the polio vaccine that was like, you know what, I want people to live. Yeah. So I'm going to just give it. Well, who are you going to sell it to?
I'm not going to make millions of dollars off this. I'm going to give it to everyone.
Everyone can have this for free. But yeah, and that's the thing is that there are software engineers, there are programmers, there are website designers that are writing code literally just so you can have it for free because they want things to have everybody to have access to it.
Right. And that's what we need. I mean, that's the best way to get everyone out there on the internet educating themselves. Continue educating yourselves. That's why I keep posting those stupid-ass stories on Facebook and Twitter, so you'll look at stuff and read things and learn something.
Well, and that's
good for you.
You need to learn about as much stuff as you can. You only have so much time on this planet, guys.
Yeah, use it as wisely as you can. Not for playing video games.
And don't be a dick and be one of those motherfuckers that writes a bunch of code that fucks people's shit up. That shit pisses. Why we even need virus software, antivirus software. That shit pisses me off. Don't be a dick.
They keep talking about, like, there's all these stories coming out with, like, new bionic eye that came out, like, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
The doctors have created ways to make people, like, hear better and all this great technological ways that you could upgrade your body. And my biggest thought is I've never had a computer that didn't get a virus.
Right.
Why the fuck would I put an electronic part in my body?
Right. Well, yeah.
Somebody's going to hack and fuck that thing up purposely.
Could you imagine if it was like a heart valve and you could just hack someone's heart valve and make it stop working?
That would be terrible. But you know what I would probably be willing to do? Once people start getting the bionic eyes, if they turned out to be a dick, I think I would be okay with a virus that causes them to see gay porn everywhere they go.
It's kind of like LoJack on the really expensive cars that they can just shut it off from anywhere. Except they'd be tormented with images that would be upsetting to them. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever allow my body to be upgraded like that.
Upgraded?
Not necessarily in the hacker way, but I mean, any of this bionic shit that people were talking about to make you faster or think smarter or whatever. Well, I work just fine.
Yeah, and the thing is that there are some times where you need a physical upgrade to your body because X, Y, or Z part isn't functioning correctly, and so you need one. Like, you've got a bad heart, you need to put a valve in it or whatever, or you've got a bum leg, it needs to be replaced. So I totally understand that stuff, but there are people that have operations and there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just thinking of cosmetic examples right now, and those are, you could just think of 1,000 examples of that. But why the hell would you have surgery for something you don't even need to have done? It kind of reminds me of clients I used to have that would have their teeth removed so they could get pain pills. And they literally would go and complain to dentists that they would have rotten teeth, and they'd have one removed at a time so they could get access to these narcotic painkillers. And then they'd have enough painkillers to last them for 2 days because they'd abuse them, and then they'd go have another tooth pulled in another dentist's office. It's like, how fucking fucked up is the world that you go through that? And that's an addiction personality.
I've got an adverse effect to. I've never had a painkiller that really does anything for me at all.
Okay, yeah, and some people genetically their bodies don't work right with them.
I'll tell you what, I would think the doctors are giving you weird looks if you seem like you're trying to get pills. You should see the weird fucking looks you get when you say, no thanks, I'm not going to use them.
Yeah.
What? What's the matter with you? Why don't you want this medicine?
Well, and sometimes doctors do push medications on you that you don't want. I remember my friend gave birth. One of my friends gave birth to a son, and she went through the list of all the immunizations you're supposed to have, and she selected which one she felt comfortable with her son having. And she had gotten to a screaming match with the doctor and left because the doctor insisted on trying to give her son immunizations she didn't want to have done. And she's like, as his mother, I have the right to choose what gets put into his body. You're not fucking doing it. You're not giving my kid these other shots. He doesn't need to be vaccinated against hepatitis. He's not having sex. He's a week old. He doesn't need that shot. So, if later on I decide...
I keep hepatitis in my home. So
right,
not
exactly.
Come into contact
so,
with
if later on I want my child, vaccinated against something that's a sexually transmitted issue, then I'll choose that when he gets closer to that age. I'm not doing it now. And they tried to make it seem like he would not be allowed to be enrolled in school if that were the case, and that's not true.
No. You can get waivers for things like that. The biggest thing they always push is, like, the herd immunity. If enough people are immune due to vaccinations, then a disease can't really break its way in and get a foothold. But even when it comes to these pandemics and stuff, we now have more and more viruses that are resistant to the medications that we have.
Yeah.
Because everybody's over-medicated.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, obviously. But I had...
But I played one a lot as a kid.
Yes, I sure did.
I love saying that.
But I went through the hepatitis vaccines. There's 3 of them. You have to get 3 injections each time you get it. And I went through that series twice, and my body will not accept the vaccine. The antibodies do not show up, as if I've never had a shot. And so what I was told is that there's never been a documented case of a person whose body will not accept the vaccine that's ever gotten the disease. But what's going on where my body doesn't accept this vaccine?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know either.
Wonder Woman.
So, and I'm like, maybe I'm either A, secretly immortal, or B, maybe everybody doesn't need to be vaccinated against things.
Yeah, there's a good possibility. I know as a kid, I never got chickenpox. Everybody in my household had it at one point, and the adults all got shingles. I never got chickenpox.
Yeah, I know I had
chickenpox. Said some people just don't.
And the pox and chickenpox are not the same thing.
No.
That was just a funny joke. It wasn't funny. But yeah.
I didn't even catch it. Sorry.
I think the pox is syphilis.
Oh.
Yeah, the pox from like medieval times.
This little cold stream is running through my body.
But yeah, I know that seemed like that jumped way off topic, but it's vaccines and getting bionic treatments for things that you don't need, and not being allowed to have a choice in things, like your doctor demanding that you get your kid vaccinated for things you don't feel comfortable doing. Instead of educating you, they just start screaming at you like that's going to change your mind.
Right.
And you've got to then keep a shitty job you don't want. Then you want to walk around blaming everybody for why your life's so shitty. It's like, why are we
doing this?
Yeah.
We can buy shit from slave labor shops that we don't need.
It's just a clusterfuck, the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. We really got to start working on some ideas and fixing this planet.
Yes.
And I don't mean the sphere itself. I mean the inhabitants of the damn place.
Yeah, and an actual intellectual exercise where everyone can figure out what's going on and what we could do to improve things would be nice. Evolving mentally.
Let's all do that. Let's go out and evolve this week. We'll come back as something better than the apes we are today.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss it.
On a completely unrelated closing note, because we've gone to almost an hour now, I want to let you guys know that I learned something recently. The word fanny in Europe does not mean the same thing that the word fanny means in the United States.
All right, I want to hear that.
The word fanny means the vagina in Europe, and it means the rear here. So so fanny would be the front in Europe, and it would be the back
that
here.
Could be pretty confusing.
The phrase fanny pack is hilarious. It's a pussy pouch. So that's my closing words for you guys: is don't use the phrase fanny pack at all.
And if you're
in Europe,
if you're American girl, don't freak out when the guy says he'd like to do you in the fanny.
Exactly. It doesn't mean in the butt. So,
all right.
That's all I've got to say about that.
That's a good closing note. All right, I'm out of here. See ya.
See you guys. Fanny power.